The door was already open, not cracked, not swinging, open, wide, like something had left in a hurry, or something had been waiting to let someone in. Officer Dana Reyes sat in her patrol car for 11 seconds before she moved. She counted them. Later, she would not be able to explain why she counted. Only that something in her chest told her those 11 seconds were the last normal ones she would ever have. It was a Tuesday in November, the kind of day that feels like the world forgot to finish itself. The sky was the color of old dishwater, flat and heavy, pressing down on the suburb of Millhaven like a thumb on a bruise. Dana had been on the force for 6 years. Wellness checks were routine, boring even. A neighbor calls, you knock. An elderly man answers in his bathrobe, confused but fine. You smile, you leave, you forget it by lunch. This one came in at 9:47 a.m. The caller was a woman named Margaret Holt, 73, who lived across the street at 14 Creston Lane. She had called because her neighbor, a man named Gerald Foss, 61, retired school librarian, widower, had not collected his mail in 9 days. His lights came on at night, she said. She'd seen that, but she hadn't seen him, not once, and Gerald, she told the dispatcher, was the kind of man who watered his plants every morning at 8. Every single morning, rain or shine. For 11 years, his porch was empty. The plants were dead. Dana stepped out of the car and pulled her jacket tighter. The air smelled like wet leaves and something else underneath it. Something faintly chemical. She told herself it was a neighbor's dryer vent. She told herself a lot of things in the next 20 minutes. She knocked. Mr. Foss, Millhaven PD. Just doing a wellness check, sir? Silence. She knocked again, harder. The open door drifted 2 inches wider, and the smell hit her properly this time. Not dryer sheets, not anything natural. It was the smell of something preserved, like a museum, like formaldehyde in closed air and years. Dana unholstered her weapon and pushed the door open with her foot. Mr. Foss, I'm coming inside. Just want to make sure you're okay. The house was dim, curtains drawn on every window. She could see the living room from the doorway, tidy, almost aggressively so. Books arranged by height on the shelves, a mug on the coffee table, contents long evaporated to a dark ring. A cardigan folded perfectly over the arm of a chair, as if Gerald had just stepped out and expected to return. Her boots were loud on the hardwood. She hated that, the way the silence made every sound feel like an announcement. She cleared the kitchen, cleared the bathroom, a half-squeezed tube of toothpaste on the sink, a towel folded in thirds on the bar, everything precise, everything undisturbed. There was food in the refrigerator, not rotted, she noticed. Some of it looked recently bought. Orange juice, deli meat still in the store bag. Someone had been shopping. She stood in the hallway and breathed slowly. 2 bedrooms, both empty. A home office with shelves of library books. A desk bare except for a single legal pad. She glanced at it. The page was covered in handwriting, dense and cramped, and the top line read, she leaned in, Day 47. She smiled at me again today. She is starting to remember. Dana stared at those words for a long moment. She went back to the hallway. That was when she noticed the rug. It was a runner, burgundy and navy, the kind people put in hallways to protect hardwood floors. Standard. Forgettable. Except the corner of it was folded back, just slightly, and underneath it, the hardwood was a different color. A rectangle of newer wood, fitted carefully into the older floor. Seams sealed. Flush. Someone had worked hard to make it invisible, but not hard enough. Dana crouched down. She pressed her palm flat against the new wood and felt it. A vibration, barely anything. The faintest hum, like something electrical, like something running below. She found the handle recessed into the wood, a flush pull, the kind used in trapdoors, and she understood, fully and finally, that this wellness check was not going to end the way wellness checks ended. She called for backup. She was told 12 minutes. She should have waited. She knew she should have waited. She opened the door. The stairs went down into white light, not darkness. That was the thing that would stay with her longest in the years after. Not the darkness you'd expect, not the damp basement horror of shadows and dripping pipes. White. Clean, clinical fluorescent light, the kind used in operating rooms. The stairs were finished wood, carpeted, the railing solid. It looked like a renovation. It looked like someone had spent money. She went down. The basement was large. Larger than the house's footprint suggested, which meant Gerald Foss had dug, had extended, had done this work over time, quietly, while his neighbors watched him water his plants every morning at 8. The room was divided. On the left side, a living space, a chair, a small television mounted to the wall, a bookshelf, a narrow cot with a pillow and a folded blanket. Domestic, careful. The television was on, muted, showing a cooking channel. On the right side, something else entirely. There were photographs on the wall, hundreds of them, covering every inch of the plaster in a dense, overlapping mosaic. And they were all of the same woman. Different ages, she could see that. Young, then middle-aged, then older, but always the same face. A kind face, a face that looked, in some of the older photos, like it might have once looked back at Gerald Foss with something like love. Beneath the photographs, a table. On the table, in careful rows, a hairbrush, a pair of reading glasses, a wool scarf, a ceramic coffee mug with a chip on the rim. Small things, ordinary things, each one labeled in Gerald's cramped handwriting on a small white card, the way a museum labels its exhibits. The hairbrush read, "Used every morning." She always counted the strokes. Dana's radio crackled. She didn't hear it, because she had seen the door. It was at the far end of the room, white, like the walls. A single window in it, small and rectangular, set at eye level. The light behind it was on. She walked toward it. Her legs moved without her permission, or so it seemed to her later. She walked, and the closer she got, the more she could hear something she had not heard before. A sound so quiet, she had mistaken it for the hum of the electrical system. It was breathing, slow and regular, alive. Dana reached the door. She looked through the window. An elderly woman sat in a rocking chair on the other side of the glass. She was wrapped in a quilt. Her white hair was neatly combed. There was a tray beside her with a cup of tea, a plate with the crusts of eaten toast. She was reading a paperback novel, her finger moving slowly along the lines. She looked comfortable. She looked cared for. She looked completely, utterly unaware that anything was wrong. Dana found the handle and pushed the door open, and the woman looked up, and for one brief, disorienting second, she did not look frightened. She looked relieved. She looked like someone who had been waiting patiently for exactly this. "I wondered when someone would come," the woman said. Her voice was thin but steady. "Ma'am, I'm Officer Reyes. Can you tell me your name?" "Eleanor," the woman said. "Eleanor Foss." The name landed on Dana like something physical. "Gerald's wife," Dana said, and her voice came out strange. 41 years, Eleanor said. She looked down at her book, then back up. "He told me I had dementia. He told the whole town. Showed them papers, I think, though I never saw them myself." She smoothed the quilt over her knees. "I was confused for a time. I'll admit that. After the accident, I was confused, but I got better." She said it simply, plainly, the way you'd say it about a cold. "I got better, and then one day I woke up down here." "How long?" Dana asked. She already didn't want the answer. Eleanor thought about it. She tilted her head, and the motion was so calm, so measured, that it cracked something open in Dana's chest. "What month is it?" Eleanor asked. "November," Dana said. "November 12th. Eleanor nodded once, slowly. 14 months, she said. Backup arrived. 8 minutes later, Dana heard them upstairs, heard the radio chatter, heard boots on the hardwood above her head. She didn't move. She sat on the floor beside Eleanor Foss's rocking chair, and Eleanor put one small dry hand over hers, and neither of them spoke. Gerald Foss was found 3 hours later at a lake house 60 miles north. He didn't run when the officers came. He was sitting on the dock with a thermos of coffee, watching the water. When they told him Eleanor had been found, his face didn't collapse into guilt or panic. It moved into something that looked almost like grief, like loss. "She doesn't remember," he said quietly. "When she's there, she doesn't remember who I am." But down here, he pressed a hand to his chest. Down here, I still know her. He looked at the water. I made it nice for her. I made it just like she liked. They found his journal in the house. 83 days of entries, everyone beginning with the same line. She smiled at me today. She is starting to remember. Eleanor Foss had shown no signs of dementia. None. Her doctors confirmed it within a week. The original diagnosis, the papers Gerald had shown the town, had been forged by a man with access to 30 years of library research and a very specific, very quiet kind of desperation. He had watched his wife forget him, day by day, after the accident. And then she had gotten better. And when she had gotten better, she had looked at him with clear and steady eyes, and she had not known his face. Dana thought about that for a long time. Thought about a man who had lost his wife twice, once to illness, once to recovery. Thought about the photographs on the wall, the labeled artifacts, the neatly folded blanket, the cooking show playing on mute. She thought about a kind of love so broken it had caved in on itself and become something else entirely. Something that wore love's face but moved through the world like a wound. She thought about Eleanor reading her paperback, making the best of a room, counting the days in a way that required no marks on a wall, only the slow accumulation of patience. She thought about the legal pad. She smiled at me again today. She thought about what it must have meant to him when Eleanor smiled. In that basement, in that careful room, not knowing his name, but smiling at the man who brought her tea and toast and kept her warm. A smile with no memory behind it. A smile like a door that looked open, but led nowhere. The worst part, the thing Dana would never say out loud, never, not to her partner or her therapist or anyone, was that she understood it. Not the act, never the act, but the math of it. The terrible arithmetic of a person who could not survive being forgotten. She understood it, and that was what kept her up at night. Not the basement, not the photographs, not the woman in the rocking chair. The understanding. The fact that the human heart, under enough pressure, in enough darkness, could build something like that and call it love. Could tend it every day. Could keep the lights on. Could leave the door open, wide, like something had been waiting to let someone in.